Hi, my name is Sam Amin. I'm the Design Division Chief in Caltrans, District 11. I would like to welcome all of you for our Coronado Bridge Advisory Committee, number 5. This is the 5 and also the last meeting for this body, but it's not the last thing for this project, of course. Just a few items for the meeting. This meeting is hybrid, so it's a virtual as in person, and so there is going to be a recording for this meeting, and it's going to be available on YouTube and other links as well. The comment, or if you need to have any comment for this meeting, please use the chat button, and we can be able to include that. There's other mechanisms for the people in the room that they can be asking questions. We can be able to make those questions available at a later time. For any future question after this meeting, we can be always providing our District 11 Coronado Bridge email address, and you're always welcome to ask questions even after this meeting. For the closed caption, there's a closed caption button if you would like to activate that if you are attending virtually. There's also the raise hand button if you are having any question, but we prefer to leave the question to the end, but you're always welcome to use that feature. There's also the chat. You can add anything in the chat with a question or comments. The agenda item, it's going to include some welcoming for all the team. We're also going to give project updates for selected alternatives that we're moving forward with. Some comment about the final environmental document that we already achieved, cost estimating and funding. We're going to discuss also schedule path forward for this project. And at the end, we're going to have an open discussion, question and answer. For the team that you are here in the room, just in case of emergency, there is you can exit out the side of the door and just to the right by the museum, just in case of emergency happens. But from there, I would like to introduce Coronado Sanchez to give some update about SB 656 stakeholder.
Thank you. So welcome to Caltrans. Welcome to the folks that are online. We have 2 or 3 people that are supposed to join us online that just weren't able to make it in person, but we're happy to see you in person. This is the first time that this or a version of this committee is met in person. It's our last meeting, but we'll still keep talking. It's our last meeting for the Senate Bill 656, but we'll still keep in contact, and there's still a lot of work to be done to get this project to move forward, but we have some really great updates for you. As you know, Senate Bill 656 essentially required Caltrans to bring together a group of stakeholders and define who those stakeholders were. We were also able, Caltrans was able to add a few agencies, people, and cities to the meeting, or to these meetings, to be able to have a well-rounded sort of concept to be able to go forward through an environmental process. So what you'll see on the next page, is, and we're going to introduce ourselves, but what we've done in the past is just sort of show you who was appointed to the committee, so you have a sense of who was there or who is appointed to the committee, and hopefully that gives you a good sense of. We've talked to everybody, as many people as we can, about the project. I'd be remiss in not forgetting to thank Senate President Pro Tem Tony Atkin's office, who helped us get the funding that got us through the environmental process and is getting us to the next step. And certainly Senator Wessel for the creation of Senate Bill 656, which gave us another way to talk to folks in the community and to be able to reach some sort of more non-traditional folks in the environmental and review process. And we're going to thank in advance all of our elected officials that are represented here today, because without you, we really aren't going to be able to pull this off. So thank you for joining us today. So with that, we're going to start with, if we could have the folks that are online introduce themselves, and then the folks in the room, Caltrans, and all of us can introduce ourselves, and then we'll. Can you?
Dave Grabo, San Diego Fire Rescue Department.
Well, we're also joined online by, and then there's a get our name right, Shannon Fiala from the California Coastal Commission. And we're expecting one more person from David Alvarez's office, online, but we'll wait. So why don't we start with, Ben under the table, we can introduce ourselves. Jesse, that means you.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jesse Schmidt, and I'm here on behalf of State Senator Stephen.
Hi, my name is Sam Amin. I'm Caltrans District 11 Design Division Chief.
My name is Margaret Doyle. I'm here representing 7 member Tasha Burner Horvath.
Good afternoon, Jason Wheaton, San Diego Police Department.
I'm Caridad Sanchez, I'm the Deputy District Director for External Affairs here at Dublin.
My name is Cole Reed, and I'm with the Office of Senate President Pro Tem.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Deanne Akers here, the Office of Maritime Authority.
Good afternoon, I'm Rhonda Haston, founder of Coronado Bridge Collaborative and resident of City of Coronado.
Hi, everyone. My name is Brett Hall, and I am a program manager with Community Health Improvement Partners, and we facilitate the San Diego County Suicide Prevention Council.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Caltrans District 11. I'm Gustavo Galarda, the District 11 Director.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Stefan Gatles. I'm the Deputy Director for Environmental and Caltrans.
Good afternoon, Jason Summers, Coronado Fire Department.
I am Wendy D'Antino, project engineer for Caltrans for the Suicide Deterrent Project.
Good afternoon, Laszlo Bunsick, Coronado Police.
Anna Shepard with Naval Base Coronado on behalf of Navy Region Southwest.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Chuck Wright, work for Caltrans, and I'm the project manager for the Suicide Deterrent Project.
Hi, everybody. I'm Frank Contreras. I'm the acting design manager for Caltrans.
Hi, everyone. I'm Delina Whitney, Caltrans District 11 External Affairs.
Hi, everyone. I'm Natalia Rosas. I'm the Director of Digital Communications and Council Representative for Councilmember Vivian Moreno.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Lizzie Rodriguez with Council Member Vivian Moreno, District 8. I'm a council rep for her area.
And my name is Michael Reyes. For Caltrans, I'm going to help with the CAD support and IT support.
Thank you. So I think that's all of us in the room. Nobody's joined us yet, so I'll hand it over to our District Director.
All right. Thank you, Caridad. And by the way, for those that are wondering how they're hearing there, we have that beautiful device there. It's called the Owl. And as you speak, it kind of listens to your sound and it focuses on you. So you see the screen kind of rotating as later we get into more conversations. So like I mentioned, I'm Gustavo Galarda, I'm the district director here. And I'm glad to see all of you. This is our 5th and last meeting, like Caridad mentioned. The last meetings we've had through the pandemic were all virtual, but nonetheless, were very important to deliver the mission for this group. SB 656 determined that this committee work would end when we selected a suicide deterrent for the bridge or before January of 2030, whichever came earliest. And as you all know, we selected an alternative for this bridge, and we're going to be talking a little bit more about that later. But last June is when we finalized our environmental document and selected the preferred alternative for this bridge. That was after the team completed numerous technical and environmental studies, including cultural, historical, biological, visual, and coastal zone analysis and assessments. We also engaged in consultation and coordination with several regulatory agencies and at the federal and state level that allowed us to get quicker feedback on our studies. We also have worked with many of you that are first responders, the Navy, the Coast Guard, to make sure that the project will not conflict or make the response, rescue, and recovery more difficult for all of you. We've talked with this group and considered your valuable input. We've also talked to the larger community and also received input from them. In essence, the final environmental document meets state and federal law, also known as CEQA and NEPA. And this is a huge milestone for us because once we get environmental infrastructure projects cleared environmentally through CEQA and NEPA, then we can proceed with the design and ultimately with the construction. So where we're at today is we are actually working on the final design of this project. So during today's meeting, you're gonna hear a little more detail about how we got here and what the next steps are. But just to reiterate that these type of projects don't happen very easily. They're very complicated and sometimes require balancing different needs. And particularly also getting the funding for these projects is very important. So let me touch upon a little bit about where we're at with the funding. This is not a traditional transportation project. So we recognize that actually working through this project kind of set a path for how a project like this can get funded. And it's actually thanks to the Federal Infrastructure Investments and Jobs Act that we were able to identify a funding source for this project. Earlier this year, working with the California Transportation Commission, we included the project in the State Highway Operation and Protection Program, also known as the SHOP. The Commission, at the same time that they took an action adding this project to the SHOP, they also allocated $14 million for the final design of this project. When we started this project in 2017, we told everyone that it was going to take us about 10 years to complete this project from beginning until the end. From where we're at today, we're estimating that it's going to take about 12 years. So the completion will probably be around 2029. I hope that in the past couple of years, we've shared with you how complex this project is, and part of the complexity is why it's going to take a couple of years longer than we originally anticipated. In the meantime, we realize that particularly for our emergency responders that are here, as well as the suicide prevention organizations, there are still people going to this bridge. And we want to tell you how much we value all the work that you do in preventing people from dying from this bridge by suicide. And I can assure you that our team is committed to getting this project finally designed and constructed. I realize that this group officially may end, but we would love to stay in contact with you to give you, continue to give you progress updates as we move forward in the final design stages of the project, as well as when we identify the funding for construction and when we're ready to move forward. So with that, I want to thank you again for all being here, whether you're in person or virtually, and I'll pass it back to you, carry that. Who's next? Chuck, sorry. I'll pass it back to Chuck, and we'll be here to, we'll open it up later for some questions and comments that you may have.
Thank you, Gustavo. Can you bring up the slide deck? Perfect. So I'm going to start off with some project updates and just status. If you could go to the next slide. Thank you. So when we last met with the advisory committee, we had not selected the preferred alternative. And after looking at all of the input that we received and from this advisory committee and from the public, we did select the vertical net to move forward. That vertical net alternative also includes new monitoring cameras on the bridge and upgrading the existing monitoring cameras on the bridge. And that's so we can have full coverage of the bridge if there's any future events. That vertical net alternative that's selected to move forward also includes enclosing the bridge face on the underside of the bridge. We need to do that because a vertical net will also block some of our existing access for inspection and maintenance. So those enclosed bays will allow us to continue to inspect and maintain that bridge. Next slide, please. So the exhibit on the screen shows as dashed lines. It's a little bit hard to see, but that's the future location and limits of the vertical net. So it's on both sides of the structure, and the begin point is near the begin bridge on the Coronado side, and it runs over the San Diego Bay and ends just west of Newton Avenue in the city of San Diego. This exhibit also shows the locations where we will be upgrading the existing monitoring cameras and also adding new monitoring cameras, so we do have that full coverage. And that's shown by the green diamonds and the red circles. Next slide. So I'm now gonna hand it over to Stefan Galvez to talk about the final environmental document.
Thank you, Chuck. Yeah, good afternoon. So as Gustavo already pointed out, the environmental process was a critical part to move the project forward. As we all know, the environmental process provides the platform to project the project to the next phase, right? In this case, the design phase, and ultimately the construction, right? As part of that process, we engage with the community, with technical experts, with our local partners, state and federal regulatory agencies. We all together identify the different alternatives, and not only the alternatives, but also how we're going to minimize the potential impacts on the physical environment as well as in the community, right? So through that great work that we did together, we were able to identify avoidance and minimization measures and select a preferred alternative that was endorsed by the committee and that we included in the environmental document. So maybe we'll go to the next slide. Also, as we mentioned, we use CEQA and NEPA as we do for all projects, right? It's the framework under which we do the analysis, the assessment, and sort of based our decisions on. But there's also a multitude of environmental laws and regulations at the state and federal level. For this project, some of the critical ones were the Coastal Act, as well as Section 106 of the National Historic Preservation Act, because we wanted to make sure that we minimize impacts on the historic character of the bridge, as well as visual and scenic impacts of this iconic structure. We did have the draft environmental document circulated to the community in January of last year. We received overwhelming support. We had about 70 comments, and the great majority of those comments were in favor of the vertical net that we later selected as the preferred alternative. And now we're able to move forward. We completed the environmental document in June of 2022. We look forward to the next phases. If we could go to the next slide. From the environmental perspective, we don't stop, right? We all understand that we value our environment, we value our communities greatly. So we'll continue to be involved to make sure that those commitments that we identified in the environmental document, we are consistent throughout the rest of the process. The next step will be to get the environmental permits, particularly the coastal development permits, as we'll be working with the Coastal Commission, we'll be working with the city of Coronado and the city of San Diego, as well as the port, to move forward to that process. We thank you for your support also on that. And then through the design process, we'll make sure that the bridge is designed in a way that is in keeping with those environmental commitments. And then same thing to construction. We want to make sure that we tread lightly on the environment, that we avoid and minimize any impacts. So again, thank you for your collaboration. Everybody sort of pulled together, everybody helped us come up with the alternative that was going to minimize those visual impacts. Originally, we were talking about preparing an environmental impact report, but because of that collaboration, that discussion, that interaction with all of you, as well as members of the community, we were able to downscope that environmental impact report to a negative declaration. So thank you again for your cooperation. With that, I'll pass it back to you.
Thanks, Stefan. So now I'm going to touch on the estimated project costs. Last time we had met with the advisory committee, we had informed you that the total project cost we'd estimated approximately $130 million. That is actually still our current cost estimate, has not changed, so it's remaining at $130 million total. You're in the next slide, please. Thank you. So that total cost estimate does include additional environmental tasks, which Stefan was mentioning earlier, which carries through the design phase, which we're in now, and it also carries through the construction phase. And so we have to make sure that we do meet our environmental commitments. And so that that estimate includes tasks related to that. Furthermore, that total estimated project cost does include the cost to complete the design, to finalize the design, and basically create a set of plans that will be used by the contractor, and also accompanying documents the contractor will need in order to construct the project. And of course, the total estimated project cost also includes the cost of construction. So that includes Caltrans to be able to administer the contract, to be able to inspect the work, to make sure it meets our specifications and requirements. But in addition to that, to actually bring a contractor on board, pay that contractor for the time and materials and for their labor. So with all those combined, again, we're still at $130 million. As we progress through the design and we reach the final set of plans, we will be refining this estimate because of course we will have more detail and we'll have all of this fine details that we currently don't have now. So hopefully we will be looking if there's any ways, see if there's any ways to still achieve the project, meet the environmental commitments, but see if we can't get that estimate to be lower. Next slide, please. So now I'm going to touch on project funding. With the next slide, thank you. So as Gustavo mentioned earlier in his opening statement, we have been looking for ways to fund this project, and it is not a typical traditional project. We did find an opportunity through the Infrastructure Investments and Jobs Act. And as soon as we found that opportunity, we quickly coordinated with California Transportation Commission staff. And in December 2022, the California Transportation Commission staff, they did approve the project for future consideration of funding, which is the first step in this process. And just shortly after that, in January of this year, the California Transportation Commission, they also amended this project into the State Highway Operation and Protection Program. And in that same meeting, they also allocated $14 million so we can complete the design of this project. Next slide, please. So now I'm going to touch on the project schedule. So as we committed to and as we planned, we did complete that final environmental document, which is a major milestone for this project in June of 22. And this project schedule has been slightly updated since we last met, beginning with the begin milestone. We're now reflecting the beginning design in 2023, which is where we're at now. And as we talked about in the previous advisory committee meeting, we anticipate that the final design will take approximately 3 years to complete. Now, after we complete the final design, pending funding, we would then move into the construction phase of the project. We also anticipate, as we discussed in the last meeting, that it will take approximately 3 years to complete the construction of this project. As we progress forward through the design, we also will be looking for ways to see if there's any way that we can accelerate this project. Again, we understand the importance of this project, and we do want to get it done as quickly as possible. Next slide, please. So now I'm going to talk about our advisory committee meetings. Next slide. So it's hard to believe it's been almost 2 years since we first met. This is our first hybrid face-to-face meeting. It's really nice to see the folks in this room and see each other face-to-face. We wanted to have this 5th meeting and meet with you after we completed the final environmental document. We also wanted to just share the status of the project and share the good news that we do have funding to complete the design. And so we also, of course, we wanted to thank you for your time spent with us and for your input. It was really helpful and is helpful through the process. As Gustavo said, this is our last advisory committee meeting that we have. However, we will still be here available if there's any future questions regarding the project. Next slide. So just looking ahead, we are in the design phase now, and the next step will be to complete the design. Concurrently, we'll need to obtain agreements and also request a coastal development permit that we'll need for construction. Pending funding, we would then move into the construction phase. On the screen is the project website address where we have project information posted, including a copy of the final environmental document. So we wanted to take a very important moment in this meeting to talk about the sensitivity of this project and on the topic of suicide. Last year in summertime, there was a new 3-digit 988 number for the suicide crisis and lifeline, that went national. So this number is available in all 50 states. So anyone who needs help can simply dial 988. And that resource is available for folks that need 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. On the bottom of the screen for loss survivors, there's their survivors of suicide loss. There's the website and telephone contact information for those seeking that type of help. Next slide, please. So I'm now going to hand it over to Wendy Vandenew, who's going to facilitate the open discussion and Q&A portion of this meeting.
Thanks, Chuck. So as we move into the Q&A and the discussion, I just want to remind everybody that we are being recorded and live streaming on YouTube. So anything that you ask here will have the benefit of reaching a larger audience. We're going to go ahead and start with the folks that are virtual, see if there's any questions there, and then we'll move to any questions or comments in the room. So Yadira, are there any comments in the chat? No comments in the chat. Okay, so I'm going to cycle back to the virtual folks at the end, just in case they didn't know that they needed to have their comments in already. Give them a chance to do that before the end of the meeting. But is there anybody that wants to ask a question here in the room or have a comment they want to make? Go ahead, Rhonda.
Sure. So my question is, of course, regarding the funding. I had requested information from Coronado about a year ago or so about the different sources that might be available to us. And I know that you've given me a list, and I was hoping maybe you could give us to touch the base on the different ones that you talked about, the grants.
Sorry, you guys will have to.
I can tell you which ones they were if you want.
Oh, sure. Okay.
So there was the federal raise grant.
Right, we applied for a raise grant.
Go ahead. We were, so you applied and
We applied, yes.
Okay.
And we're not successful.
not successful, okay. And then, let me see here. Talked with the legislature, earmarks,
We applied for federal earmark,
Yeah.
9 years in a row.
yeah.
There is a second opportunity. The project is not quite in the right space for it to be shovel ready. So I think the plan is sort of in the long term, overarching thing is that we come back to to our federal, folks, senators and the Congress folks to ask for this.
And then what about the state? You mentioned something about the state.
There wasn't there, so what there's sort of, you guys are great there, but essentially we get formula funding, right? That's what SHOP is. That's one of two versions of us getting money. So we're getting a version of that money, the 14 million that we're talking about now. And then there's an earmark process through the state budget. That's one that I'd like to get away from.
Okay.
But yes.
Is there anything we can do now?
I think part of list, I think we're going to give you sort of all of the tools.
Okay.
But right now we're ready. We're in design. It means we're going to work on this, but we will be looking for money. The director will be looking and working, and then we'll also do a federal and state strategy, but we're not quite there yet for the construction, but we'll keep working through and there is a group of, and my folks, our folks here that are in the legislative, federal, state, and local, we sort of get together and talk about, actually facilitated by Mayor Gloria's office. We talk about infrastructure projects that are important to the region, and we sort of are supporting those. So that is definitely among the list of priorities for the San Diego region. It's also in the county's regional transportation plan, also gives it a spot of importance. So we sort of have all the transportation stuff lined up that's going to get us to the right place.
Well, we can help with it.
Yes.
And one of the things that's one of the reasons why we did CEQA and NEPA is because we wanted to make sure that we could compete for state or federal funds. Because we could have done just CEQA, right? And then leave NEPA on. But in this case, we went after the state and federal clearance, and that way we have more options. The fact that the project got amended into the SHOP means that it's also SHOP eligible for construction. I carry that said, right now we have $14 million. That should carry us through the design phase up until construction. So right now, we really don't need money for the next 3 years. But we need to make sure that at the end of 3 years, we have the construction funding identified so that we don't waste any more time and we can jump then from design into construction. So I would say it's never too early to look for money. And some of the opportunities, like you mentioned, raise, different and grant opportunities like that, we will continue looking after them.
I know there's like, I spoke with San Francisco in depth about this, and there was mental health grants that they were able to use also, so if you guys, need it, let us know.
Yeah.
We did look into that, but I think that the county chair is looking for it, but
Okay.
we literally really are having conversations about some shaping trees, so we'll keep hearing that. There will be later on, and I don't know what they are, we'll map those opportunities to talk to other agencies, clearances that we need to get, coordination with other agencies and cities. There's stuff to do, no doubt.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Great. Thanks, Rhonda. Good question. Anybody else have a question or comment on that? Go ahead, Jesse. Oh, sorry.
Jesse Schmidt, Senator B's office. I was just curious, does Caltrans think that there be a need for subsequent legislation to continue an advisory committee for X amount or extended period of time until the project's complete? Or does the agency feel like what they've been provided under 656 has been sufficient enough?
Okay, good question. Sam or Fadiga, did either?
I think let me just start. So we started many years ago, about 2017, 18, and we started with 13 difficult alternatives that everybody have come with their own alternative, and it was very difficult to come up with one alternative. And I remember the first meeting we had. I have to say we need to move slow to be faster to deliver this project because we made trip, and it was difficult because where we need to go and how we can narrow it to one alternative, define alternative that can be clear environmentally and we can move forward with. This body was very important for us to achieve that goal and reach the environmental document. And I think we reached that moment. That's great. I think from this moment forward, we need to just move with the picked alternative that's being cleared and trying to find a way, of course, to save money and make it faster, but not do changes or go back to the same box again. It's very important, your partnership, to move the project forward and to see if there is need for more money and lobby to get this project successful, but it did achieve its goal, and I think it was successful. Moving forward, I think we still need your partnership. I'm not sure if we need the body formally to be part of it. I think we still need the communication to stay on and active, but not in a formal way that it is right now. So you want to add something?
Yeah, I think the short answer is no. I think that the scope is defined for the project. Now we basically need to roll up our sleeves and get the engineering done. And that's going to take a while because of the complexity of the project. And then have an estimate that we can basically look for funding and solicit for a contractor to build it. I don't see a body like this really playing a key role during the next phases, which are design and construction.
We already have the authority to convene this group, so CEQA and NEPA would have done that in my pilot.
Thank you guys for the clarification.
It's the money that helps, but.
Okay, anything else? Was there one from this side?
Yes, I had a question about exactly where the fencing would begin. If we're on the San Diego side going towards Coronado, where exactly on the bridge it would begin? From what I understand in past conversations, there was some concerns about the fencing going over Chicano Park. I don't know if there was a resolution or what it ended up looking like.
Right, good question, good question. Sam, did you want to team take it? Or
Yes, Chuck or Frank, where is the starting point of that?
Yeah, I can take that. So, on the Coronado side, it's right near the Begin Bridge, which is just a little bit, I'll say, east of where the bridge really leaves the ground. On the city of San Diego side, we're actually meeting it right at Newton Avenue, and Newton Avenue is basically the boundary of Chicano Park. So the actual fence or the net won't extend over Chicano Park.
Thank you.
Thanks for that question.
Robert Stefan, I think it's really important for you to know, for the folks, and Stefan can explain this better. One of the reasons we were able to get the lower environmental clearances because we are not having an impact on Chicano Park. And it was something that Stephane and his folks looked at very, very much. And it's a commitment that we had to make, obviously, to the Chicano folks at the park.
Okay, thank you. Good. Anna, did you have something?
Yeah, is the total funding now 130 million or is that 116?
For construction, I'm sorry, so the 130, including everything, design, construction support, that's 130, that's the whole project cost. We were able to secure 14, which is gonna take us through all the way to the contract.
So 116 is the balance,
Got it,
but
okay.
we will fine tune the number in a couple of years when the design is done.
Okay, got it, thank you.
Dear, is there anything in the chat, comments, wise?
No.
Okay. Going once, going twice. Okay, super, and, we'll be here after the meeting if anyone wants to talk, or whatnot. So, I guess I'll turn it back over to Sam for some closing remarks.
Thank you. I just want to say it's been a journey. So till now, it's been a lot of work from the team, from the community, from you, from everyone to reach that point. And I think we're reaching a great milestone. No confusion what we want to do. And we know exactly what we need to do from here forward. The remaining is just money and trying to deliver fast. We're going to continue to look at things to save money for this project so we can stay within a reasonable budget that we can be able to move forward. There is still a lot of challenges, but the challenges, at least it's not in the scope. We still have Buy America challenge, bringing the right contract during constructability and how we build it. Minimum effect to the community, both sides. And that's a lot of challenges, but and we cannot do it without your partnership and partnership with the community, with you. So that's a very important for us. Moving forward, we're gonna share information as things change in the projects or reaching certain milestones with the team. You always welcome to ask questions to any one of us or through the emails that designated for the projects. This meeting will be posted to the YouTube and it will be available. But at any time, if you want to have any question, please feel free to talk to us, approach us, and we're really excited about this project. It's a great partnership with the community and it meets our goals in Caltrans. And if you have any other question, we're gonna stay behind to answer any question and have any concern. But for the team on in the virtual side, we probably have to end it. But if any other questions, please let us know and we can post some answers to those. Thank you very much. That's all I have. Thank you.
Questions that were not, yes,
Are we